What's going on, guys? Politics Gaming here, and today I'm going to be doing a quick little, this is actually kind of a live stream, but this is more of just kind of an analysis and a question of what happened last night in Ohio 12. So if you didn't know, last night, basically, the United States held a special election in the 12th Federal District of the state of Ohio. And this was a very close race between Troy Balderson, which is the Republican, and Danny O'Connor, which was the Democrat. And then Joe Manchin, who was representing the Green Party. So this started off pretty good for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was getting away with around 67% of the vote around the time the results started to pour in. And so what happened later on is that the Republican votes really started to just pour in, and they just started, coming in. And I was watching these results all night on CNN. And yes, I do watch CNN, so don't judge me on that. And so what basically happened, and they still actually haven't declared a winner. This race has not been called yet. This race is still actually competitive, as no winner has actually been declared. The race ended up ending last night with the Troy Balderson taking the lead after Danny O'Connor had finally gotten all the votes that he could muster. And so apparently what they need to still go through is they still need to go through all of the, preliminary votes. They have to go through some of the votes that haven't been counted yet. So, they're still kind of counting a couple of votes. But honestly, I do think that this race is going to be called for the Republican candidate, as there are probably and most likely not enough votes out there. They have to get 1,755 votes to at least get away with this election for the Democratic candidate. However, the only thing is that this, the Democrats, they did a pretty good job at trying to muster votes, and Danny O'Connor did actually do a very good job at trying to basically get away, no. Okay, so Danny O'Connor actually, separated himself from the National Democrats, such as Nancy Pelosi, people on Capitol Hill, and a lot of those Democratic super PACs and stuff like that that fund commercials. Troy Balderson was a pro-Trump candidate for the Republican Party, and just the day before the election, or a few days before, Donald Trump actually held a rally in Ohio 12, I believe. I don't remember what city it was, but he did hold a rally there for Troy Balderson. And that's most likely why this race was so close. I feel like Trump actually going there actually kind of made it a little bad, but at the same time, it still kind of proves that him endorsing a candidate could actually be a good thing. But one of the only reason, Columbus, Ohio, which is actually just south of Franklin County. So one of the things about it is that there's a debate about how good getting endorsed by a candidate, by the President of the United States, in this case Donald Trump, would do for Republican candidates. On one hand, you finally have a victory in a special election. The Republican candidate, Troy Balderson, has finally gotten away with the victory, as there have been several special elections across the United States in the past several months that, you can see the gerrymandering. If you're talking about gerrymandering, look at that. So you have that, and then you have another thing about just all of these people that are so anti-Trump, and the only reason they're voting for the Democrat is because they want to be anti-Trump. So those are two things that you have to think about. So last night, we finally have the Ohio special election results in the 12th District of Ohio. And again, it starts off with 67%, and then it kind of starts trickling down. And then over the next several hours, all the way to about 11 o'clock Central Time, my time, you really start to see how divided this district became, because you have one side that's really anti-Trump, and then you have the other side that's really pro-Trump. And this all comes down to a question of what the support of the president actually is. And I'm not sitting here, I'm not trying to say, well, this is a referendum on Donald Trump. No, it's not a referendum on Donald Trump. It's a referendum on local issues. It's a referendum on the Democrat ran as a Republican, and actually that's some of the reasons that these things actually are becoming so close, and I actually didn't think about that until now. One of the reasons why these heavily Republican districts are swinging for the Democrats is that what's going on, JJ Holmes? One of the reasons you're seeing all these pro-Trump districts swinging for the Democrats is because these Democrats are not going in as the typical Democrat. They're coming in as these conservative blue dog Democrats, and then they go in there and they're saying, we support lower taxes, we support fixing Obamacare, we support this, we support that. It's most likely a play for votes, but they're trying to appeal to that Trump working class vote that Trump won overwhelmingly in... I actually completely forgot to change this to news and politics. I just completely realized that, so people thought I was... people probably looked up Power and Revolution and just realized that I wasn't streaming Power and Revolution, but I just changed it. So you see a lot of these people that voted for Donald Trump that you're not going to be able to appeal to if you're a Hillary Clinton Democrat or a Nancy Pelosi Democrat or Elizabeth Warren, or so help you God, I almost said Elizabeth, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders. Like, again, you're just not going to win in these heavily Republican districts, because if this guy was a social Democrat, or if he was like a democratic socialist or something like that, or just a really, really like typical Democrat, this thing would have gone for the Republican by about 15, 20, 30 points. Because this district, I actually did some research, it has only voted for the Democratic candidate 2 times since 1944. And I'm actually going to pull that up to see actually history, and it's actually voted Democrat only about 2 times since the 40s. So we come over here. Okay, so 1939 we had Arthur Lamneck. That was the last time they had one. Okay, so Republican, all the way. So they had a Republican guy in there from 1939 to 1959, and then the next Republican that got in there was from 1959 to 1981, and then in 1981, or in 1980, the Democrats won that election, and then from 1983, that guy only served actually 1 term. He only served in the 97th Congress, and then so from 1983 to 2001. And then 2001 to 2018, we had 2 Republican candidates. And actually, from 83 to 2001, we actually have the current governor of the state of Ohio. We actually have the guy who represented Ohio 12 was John Kasich, who is the current governor of Ohio. So you have a lot of just history of complete Republican victories in this district. And then finally, you get so close. The Democrats get so close to actually carrying this district for the 3rd time since the 1930s. And they blew it. Which, I mean, it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying, like, oh yeah, well, good thing the Democrats lost, good thing this, good thing that. No, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying they kind of blew it because... like, they tried to make a place competitive whenever they were most likely going to lose, but they still just they just couldn't do it because this district is way too Republican. And once the first results actually coming in, so I'm going to start getting into the analysis of the counties. So these districts up here, Richland County, Morrow County, Marion County, Licking County, and Muskingum County, all of them are overwhelmingly Republican. And then you have actually a couple thousand votes that are actually for the Democrat, and possibly the Green Party. So the Green Party actually got away with nearly 300 votes, nearly 1% of the vote in Licking County. So that's actually pretty interesting. So all of these districts all around here, these really rural counties in the outskirts of just around Columbus, you're really seeing how just rural they are because of just how they're voting. They're really, really Republican. And so that was kind of like a given that he was going to win those counties. The Republican candidate would win those counties. But basically what the thing was about last night is whenever you really started to look at it, the people in the suburbs of Columbus were really going to be the ones who were going to decide the vote. So this really came down to about two counties, Delaware County and Franklin County. So Franklin County is the closest to Columbus that they can actually get. Yeah, I mean, most of these are suburbs, but I mean, you're getting into counties that are pretty far away from Columbus itself. So that's why I was saying rural. I don't live in Ohio, so I don't really know. Which actually, I know you live in Ohio, so that's actually, whatever. So it really came down to two counties, honestly, except if these guys actually started really going for the Democrat, then it would have made a difference. But Delaware County actually seriously made the difference because I was talking and watching the election results with my friend Backstar, and we were watching it, and as the results started coming in, I was watching this on the New York Times on my phone, and Delaware County was really going for the Democrat in the first half of the election, of the election results that were coming in, and then slowly but surely, it just kind of started trickling down, and that's how you really know how to tell who can actually win a race. Around about maybe 1/4% or maybe a quarter of the whole or half of it, around 25-50% of the voting count, that's whenever you can really make an assumption for who's going to win. But whenever it starts getting really close, because the Danny O'Connor and Troy Balderson actually switched the lead, maybe 4 or 5 times before finally Troy Balderson finally just took the lead at that very last vote. Like, there was a last batch of precincts that actually came in, and then Troy Balderson finally took the lead for the last time. Philip, no. Suburbs are actually really liberal because, you're still getting a lot of those class voters that are just, well, we have to do this, we have to do that, they're still in the city, so they're still having those values of liberalism and stuff like that. So it's suburbs are kind of mixed, but they're more slightly leaning toward the Democrats and left-leaning policies. So Delaware County actually made the difference in this. So whenever you were watching this, and actually Franklin County did it, but I'm going to go to Delaware. Actually I'll do Franklin County first. So Franklin County pretty much kind of screwed over the Democrat because you had a lot of people that were just voting, and if he won by about maybe 80 or 90% in Franklin County, he would have carried the election easily. But he was carrying it by about maybe 91% in the first round of results and precincts. But then it really started to kind of trickle down. So once he started getting, under 85%, then 79%, then 75%, then finally 70%. If he at least stayed above 70%, he would have carried this election very, very narrowly. But he ended up dropping down to 65%, and that's really what hurt him. That the Republican Troy Balderson got 35% of the vote in Franklin County, that people in this area outside of Columbus, Ohio, actually voted for the Republican candidate. And I mean, you don't see a lot of that whenever, I mean, in cities like this, like you're really seeing, I mean, actually, let me get a map. Let me get a map of the 2016 election to see how far okay, so we have Franklin County. Okay, yeah, so that's very gerrymandered. So actually, the Democrat actually got away with more votes than Hillary Clinton did, but yeah, okay, so I kinda didn't see that. Okay, so my theory just kind of went down the tanks, and I actually just reported that live. So, Hillary Clinton got away with 60.6% of the vote in 2016. Donald Trump got away with 34.7% of the vote. So, come down to Franklin County, in this really gerrymandered district of this area. Look at that. He got away with about 65% of the vote, and Troy Balderson got away with 34.5% of the vote. So, I think Franklin County really hurt him, but another county that really hurt him was Delaware County. Delaware County actually was leaning blue, like in the first half of the election results, around maybe 50% reporting. And then around maybe 60% reporting, that's whenever it actually flipped toward the Republican, and it never went back for him. It never went back for the Democrat. So Delaware County actually really hurt him. And I mean, Troy Balderson was actually leading by about just over 50%, around this number that he was leading by in Delaware County. And then as the results kept on coming in, you started to really see his number increase, and it never ever flipped for the Democrat ever again. So, suburbs depend on the state, BG. Well, yeah, I mean, again, you're really talking about Ohio. So, I mean, it's not that urban, but I mean, it's not too rural at the same time. Ohio is pretty mixed. So, once you started seeing Delaware County go for the Republican, that's whenever you really started to see the Democrat lose and lose and lose and lose and lose. And then finally, like around midnight last night, that's whenever, or no, like it was like around 10 or 11 o'clock my time, the race finally flipped for the Republican in the very, very last batch of results that came in. And then finally you get this 50.2 to 49.3 split for the Democrat and Republican. Now, how you take this away and how you really analyze these results is up to you. However, you say, well, this is more of like an anti-Trump movement. This is more of a movement of like, oh yeah, well, like I want to support Trump. It's kind of mixed, and honestly, you can't really say otherwise, because the districts that these Democrats are winning, again, and I said this earlier, and I'll go ahead and end off by saying this, like, you're not really going to win as a Democrat if you give yourself as a regular Democrat. A lot of people that are running as social democrats in districts that are just not they're trying to make their races competitive. And I mean, you're seeing this in a lot of races right now, that, and even in my district, like you're seeing a lot of people that are just like, oh yeah, well, I'm for like nationalized healthcare. I'm for this. I'm for that. I had a video where I talked about these people, such as Lindsey Fagan from Texas 26, that she's running against the incumbent Michael Burgess. And so you're seeing a lot of these things that say, oh yeah, well, I'm not going to run as a regular Democrat, but I'm going to run as the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party that's starting to come up and really take over the Democratic Party. And that's another thing, is that I don't think the Democratic Party is going to last. I don't think the Democratic Party is going to last because just this progressive wing of the Democratic Party is really starting to take hold, and it's not going to help them when all you see is just, like, okay, we're going to promise this, we're going to promise that, we're going to promise this free stuff, we're going to promise that free stuff. And then you're putting these people into these very conservative districts like Texas 26, Ohio 12. I mean, you can make an argument for Pennsylvania 17 last year in 2017, whenever Connor Lamb actually won that race. And I mean, one of the only reasons, I mean, the media spun it as like this thing, oh yeah, well, this is because it's anti-Trump. No, it's because Connor Lamb was actually not a typical Democrat, and he actually ran on conservative values that people actually like. And I mean, that district went about maybe 20 points. Let me actually check again for that, just to kind of check my sources before I make any assumptions, because I'm not really that much of, oh yeah, well, I know exactly what state went for what county went for what, blah, blah, blah. Like, so let me go here, let me go to Pennsylvania. Okay, it's not showing up for me, whatever. So I think you guys actually get my point, is that running as a typical Democrat's not going to get you to win. Running as a Democratic Socialist or any kind of social Democrat is not going to make you win in places like Ohio 12. Running as a conservative and running for the basically kind of the same values as a Republican maybe would, but with a couple of Democratic values mixed in there, like abortion, gay marriage, stuff like that, you're going to earn a couple of those votes. But for now, you're not exactly going to win if you're just going to do the same thing over and over again. And I mean, I probably said that about twice or 3 times now, so I'm going to probably shut up on that. But anyway, we had a couple of other races last night. You had a couple of races in Michigan, Missouri, Kansas, and Washington. Those were just a lot of primary races. And Kansas was one of them. And Kansas was actually, I just used another article in my New York Times because I'm poor. But anyway, the Republican race actually last night was pretty interesting because actually the Republican... Oh, wow. Wow. That's actually... Whoa, I did not see that last night. Okay, that's actually even more interesting. So, last night we had a primary in Kansas. This is just a Republican governor primary. So, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, actually endorsed Chris Kobach, and who is not the incumbent, actually. And they actually still have not declared a winner. That's actually another thing about this, because it actually was just so split up. And so Donald Trump, I think he went to Kansas. No, I think it was in Ohio or something like that. I forgot. But Donald Trump didn't endorse the candidate that the GOP endorsed. The GOP endorsed Jeff Collier, who is the incumbent governor of Kansas. And so last night during the primaries, Chris Kobach was endorsed by President Donald Trump. And so this really screwed over the entire primary and completely split the vote. So now, maybe these guys have to go into a runoff, or they're gonna get Chris Kobach, since he actually did win by about 0.1%. But that's actually how close it was. It nearly ended in a tie, but Chris Kobach actually took the lead. That's actually very, very interesting that actually happened. So you actually see how divided this is. I mean, this is like 51 to 20.1% of the vote in Kansas for the Democratic primary. You really see how the Democrat could actually win all of this. And the Democratic Laura Kelly, who will probably be facing off against Chris Kobach in November. So you actually see that. And then so you really see a lot of this split all the way in the counties of Kansas. And actually, Ken Selzer actually won a county. He actually won Sherman County in West Kansas. So, I don't know where this is going to go for now. Ohio 12 basically is already won for the Republicans. The Republicans will keep this district for now. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter even if the Democrat really won, because there's going to be another election in this district in like 3 months or something like that in November 3rd, 2018. So it kind of doesn't matter, especially whenever it was this close. If it was like maybe 60%, 70% for either candidate, then I don't think it would make it competitive in November of 2018. But for now, it's still competitive and it's still going to be up for grabs in 2018. So maybe Danny O'Connor is still going to run a campaign. And I mean, the Republicans actually spent a lot in this district, and so actually that paid off. I actually saw a number last night from CNN that $5.9 million was spent for the Republican candidate in Ohio 12, while only $1.9 million was actually spent for the Democratic candidate. So that's actually really interesting that the Republicans would spend $6 million, for one, in an off election year, and then two, in a tiny little district in the middle of Ohio. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this off right here. I will be back in a couple of minutes for a live stream of Canada as Power and Revolution. So, what does it actually, I'm actually going to go ahead and do one more thing, actually, is, since I'm actually on this, I could actually do this. So what does this really tell us for the Senate and the House? Like, the Senate doesn't really tell us anything. I mean, I still have a firm belief that, maybe in the best case result, this is what the Senate is going to look like in 2018. I think that, I honestly think that, Florida, I am still very, very for sure that Rick Scott's going to win. Nevada, we have new polls out of Nevada that Dean Heller is actually in the lead now, according to polls, but it's still very close, and polls aren't supposed to be like, oh yeah, well, this is for sure. That's just a poll. Indiana, I have a very, very strong feeling that Mike Braun will pull a surprise upset in Indiana and actually take the seat there. Tennessee is obviously going to stay for the Republicans. West Virginia, obviously going to stay for the Democrats because Joe Manchin is way too conservative for all of that. Arizona is kind of up for grabs. Or actually, it's very up for grabs, but honestly, I'm kind of starting to lean on the thing that, Democrats are going to pull off a quote-unquote upset, which is not really an upset whenever they're going to go the other way. So I think the Republicans are going to be unseated in Arizona, depending on who they throw at them. And, I mean, this is another reason, again, why I never really like to make these predictions, because it's way too early to start saying all this. Until the primaries are all over, and maybe around September and October, you can really make a really solid prediction on what state's going to go where. But for now, this is kind of my prediction. In any case, a good case, the Arizona's still going to go for the Republicans. Other than that, I can't really make a solid prediction. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. The House, I mean, you can't really make a solid prediction on all these races. You got about 30 races on 270 that are up for grabs, and I'm not really going to waste all my time going through. The Democrats have a really good chance at pulling all of this off, getting all of these districts. Maybe up here, Steve King's actually up for grabs right now. Other than that, I think, that's obviously going to go for the Republicans. You got a couple of districts in California, especially outside of Los Angeles, that are kind of in battleground status, which is actually pretty surprising. I mean, you see their proximity to Los Angeles. You got another one in Silicon Valley right here that's actually up for grabs. So maybe the Republicans can pull off a couple of surprise upsets. Other than that, I can't really make a solid prediction on the House. But guys, if you guys go ahead and like this, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to see Power and Revolution right after this, I will be live streaming in a couple of minutes for Power and Revolution. I just wanted to make a good analysis for Ohio 12. So guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll go ahead and see you guys in the next live stream. And if you guys want to see more election analysis, I will be doing this. I will either be doing election coverage, or I will be doing analyses, however you call it, like the day after the election. So guys, thank you guys so much. This is going to be the last special election actually for the 2018 midterms, before the actual general election. So guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll go ahead and see you guys in the next one. Take care, God bless, and whatever you guys all have to say.